This is the Panasonic BT-M1420PY. It's a broadcast monitor with a 14-inch or a 34-centimeter curved CRT. I'm not sure on the age, the date of manufacture. I'm guessing late 80s, maybe early 90s. The tube has a 90-degree deflection with more than 560 lines of resolution. We'll just call it 560, round it off to that. As is the case with most broadcast and professional... Yeah, righto, mate. As with most broadcast and professional monitors, they can be rotated quite easily because they are cubed shape and sit on their sides well. This is one of the Do-Dom Pash games on the PS2. Interestingly, when the game is set in its normal horizontal mode, or its default horizontal mode, it's 480i, but when you change it to vertical, it automatically goes into 240p. What I particularly like about the monitor and many broadcast monitors is that, say we rotate it, we want to go back to horizontal, right? And hopefully the camera's still on screen pretty good. It becomes discolored because the CRT has been moved about. But with the Degauss button on the front, you can see it's a bit splotchy and purple down there. We give that a hit and it improves it up. It's much better now. Very handy with that Degauss button on the front. Got a carry handle in each side. All metal construction. Model number on top. Panasonic badge on bottom. A few quick access buttons on the front. Power on and off Degauss, line A, line B, VTR, and your RGB line, which it's activated now with, running component, RGB or component. There's a hatch with many controls inside, and I'll go into that in more detail once I'm finished around the back and the rest of the monitor. Around the back here we can see it's Panasonic color video monitor, made in Japan, 220 to 240 volts. It's not multi-volty, it won't take 100, 110. There's a sticker there that indicates the model number and the chassis, H01M4. Thank you, Panasonic, for putting that on the outside. 2 access holes to the flyback transformer, one to adjust focus and the other for the screen voltage, no doubt. Moving over, fuse holder, IEC power socket, tally remote, 24 volts. What that would be used for is in the studio when the television station has gone on air, the news is being read, everything's active, everything's live. A remote controller will send a signal through to the monitor into this terminal here and activate a light on the front of the monitor so that the operator knows that things are live and on air. Some nice adjustments available. They can be adjusted with a flathead screwdriver. The trimmers here. Width and height can be adjusted. The next set of width and height are for underscan. There's a button on the front that will put the picture into underscan mode, which will make it horizontally and vertically smaller. You can adjust the sizes with those adjusters there. Then there's horizontal center and vertical center to center the picture, and a V-hold adjustment as well. The essentials, the bare minimum, are there. I like that they're available on the back. You don't have to go inside. I kind of prefer it to an on-screen menu. I like the old analog feel. Here we have a selector. So if you're running RGB or component, you have to choose which one you want to display by adjusting that slide switch. External sync input, you'll need to use that with your SCART cable, SCART to BNC, and you'll put your sync into there. Line B for composite video, line B. Line A for composite video as well, 2 inputs. And then we finally have the important, well not finally, but we have the RGB component line. Now you've basically got an in and out set. You don't have 2 sets of in, although you might be able to use this as a workaround. I've just thought of it now actually. Now Panasonic, in my opinion, has done a bit of a boo-boo here. It's very unusual, and I learnt this the hard way, not that that had any detrimental effect, but Normally what happens is, say on a Sony monitor or just about every other BNC monitor I've seen, you have your SCART RGB, RGBS red, say, that goes into there. You can see the R for red. And then you'd also have your PR, your component red, share that input. But in this case, Panasonic's mixed up the RGB of, say, SCART with the RGB of component. They've mixed it around. So the green of component goes in the center. Sorry, no. I've got that wrong. No. The green of component, the Y, goes in the top, but the red of the SCART also goes in the top. The green of SCART's in the middle, but the blue of the component's in the middle. So what this means is, say you're running a SCART switcher or a matrix switcher, and you have the output of your switcher, you have one cable running in, it might be good for, say, RGB, and that's all you use, that's fine. But if you've got a component signal all of a sudden coming through, it's going to be mixed up because the reds and the greens and the blues of component and SCART are not the same as one another. So that's not usually done like that. It's not usually mixed up like that. You might be able to do a workaround with both sides and have one or the other, but as it is, it's a little bit unusual to be mixed up like that. The last input is the VTR, this old connector here. VTR stands for video tape recorder, and I'm sure broadcast studios had the 1-inch tape machines or whatever. I don't know much about it, but they might have plugged in via that. But that links over to this panel here, VTR, where you can put your S-videos in, and we can also use S-video, fortunately. So a pretty good range of signals available to be used on this monitor. Inside the belly of the beast. Nice plastic cover there. You often see plastic cover over the anode area. That's to give it a bit of extra protection, given that these monitors are often all metal construction and the metal top would be sitting right on there. They put that bit of plastic in there just to make things a little bit safer. Yoke, neck board. Some tricky little board designs there on the diagonal. It's a little unusual. Another big board hanging over there on the left wall, and our controller board down there in the front. Now our tube is a little bit hard to see, but that is a Panasonic tube made in Japan, monitor grade Panasonic 34 centimeter tube. Unfortunately, I can't quite reach in with everything at the moment, but that is what it is. Be assured, it's not a Hitachi or anything like that. It's Panasonic's own, and it's monitor grade. They're not taking any shortcuts there. Oh, look what's underneath here. There's a trapdoor underneath the bottom of the monitor. Where can this lead us to? The solder side. Isn't that exciting? Starting at the top, we've got drive and screen, red, green and blue. You can adjust those with a flathead screwdriver if you gently put them inside there. There's a setup mode, which is supposed to display a white object of some sort for grayscale adjustment, I think, but that's not displaying. Won't worry about that too much. Red, green and blue cutoffs. You can actually just cut off out of the picture. Red, we can take out red, we can take out green, or we can take out blue. Take them all out if you want. Whatever combination. There's a color auto. I'd say that's for NTSC and PAL. AFC, fast and slow, filter on and off. The manual suggests to leave the filter on. It seems to make a difference in composite video. There's a switch for internal sync and external sync. So if you're using RGB from your SCART, you flick it down to external, hence the picture disappearing. But if you're using component, you flick it up because your sync's incorporated into the green line. Next is your underscan button. That's really giving it a big underscan effect. If we can get a better picture than that, we want a full screen picture. So underscan is off, now it's on. Off, on, massive difference. And you can adjust that, as I said before, on the back. There's a horizontal I don't know what you call it, but also a vertical. This is used in the broadcast industry to check out synchronization pulses and things. I don't know much about it. Blue effect, back to normal. Then of course we've got contrast, brightness, chroma, which is your color. It does affect RGB on this monitor. I've nearly got it up full at the moment. Aperture is your sharpness. Doesn't affect RGB. Brightness obviously does. That's up too high. At the midpoint it's too low, so I'll put it up a little bit. Contrast is nearly at maximum as well. So I'd say the monitor's had a fair bit of use. Surprisingly, I can't see any burn at all, yet I'm nearly having to drive color to the maximum and contrast to the maximum to get a good picture. And it is a nice picture as well. Back to the controls. You'll notice that with those four I'm talking about, contrast, brightness, chroma and aperture, there's also an adjustment that can be made inside with a screwdriver. Now that inside adjustment is part of the preset. So I can go in and turn the contrast up to maximum. It won't do anything until I flick the preset switch on. And whatever it is quite bright. Turn the preset off. So it's like having a backup set of adjustments that you can flick on at a flick of a switch. Lastly, there's this split AB. Now that's an interesting one. I don't think I've seen that feature on a monitor before. What it actually does is it splits the screen in half and allows composite input 1 and composite input 2 to share the screen together. A bit like a medical PVM from Sony. They have the two inputs at once. I'm going to put in two composite sources shortly and see what that looks like. I've had some technical trouble with this split function. There's more to it than I expected. It seems that it needs sync it needs a sync source shared into both inputs. So I'm not quite sure off the top of my head how that will operate and if it can be split screen with two separate consoles. I don't know. As it is right now, I've got a PlayStation 2 still hooked up but in composite video. It's a PAL PS2 with an NTSC copy of the game, but I think the system will still dominate with the PAL signal. It's funny business with PlayStations and mod chips and things like that, but out of curiosity, I've got the Saturn in line B via composite video, and it's in black and white. And looking through the service manual, there is no mention of NTSC support in the monitor. I actually thought that mode switch with color and auto would be automatic adjustment for NTSC to PAL, but it makes no difference whatsoever. So as it is, you're only going to be putting PAL composite and presumably S-video signals in. You won't get NTSC signals with color, except via RGB, of course. Overall, a good monitor, a good alternative to a Trinitron. This is a good way to go. This one's probably done a lot of hours, but it's still got a bit of image left in it. It's still got life to go. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more to come.